The Louisiana Book Festival enjoyed its 6th year in downtown Baton Rouge, representing over 100 authors. Join us for Louisiana Book Talks as we celebrate our rich literary culture with highlights from the 2008 Louisiana Book Festival, featuring author Immaculee Ilibagiza. Book lovers of all ages enjoy the variety of activities offered at the Louisiana Book Festival. Between the Capitol Building and the State Library, the festival is packed with booths housing everything from storytellers to basic printmaking skills, and cartoon artists to specialty publishers. In the state capitol, authors read from their latest works, often providing personal insight to their writing. In this edition of Book Talks, we'll meet author Immaculee Ilibagiza. In 1994, Immaculee lost most of her family in the Rwandan Genocide. Her experience surviving this unspeakable terror was documented in her first book, Left to Tell: Discovering God Amidst the Rwandan Holocaust. Her second book explores the reconciliation she experienced in the aftermath of this human tragedy, Led by Faith: Rising from the Ashes of the Rwandan Genocide. Immaculee has established the Left to Tell Charitable Fund, which helps support Rwandan orphans. In 2007, she was awarded the Mahatma Ghandi Award for Reconciliation and Peace.
Anyone who reads my book, I feel like they are reading my personal story, which it is my personal story. And when you love it, and you love my family, you're getting to know my mom, my dad, and many of you cry for them, for the death they have experienced. So it becomes very personal feeling to feel about people who read these books also, and I truly, truly have love for you all. But what really made me write is especially people who have encouraged me after hearing my story of the genocide, that I should write the books about it. Because I used to work with United Nations, and I would stop in the office and talk to people who are going through some hardship, and the people would just end up smiling after listening to my story. And I used to ask myself, what's wrong with my story? I thought you'd be crying for me. But what I loved and I am grateful about is to see somebody saying, finally, I can put things in perspective. I can see that what I'm living, what I'm going through, is not as bad as what you saw. And I have more reason to be grateful than suffering or crying today. And when I started to write, especially my first book, Left to Tell, many people wrote to me telling me how my book had been able to really help them to find faith, to find the courage to do their own things. I mean, I have spoken to students who told me that they were about to drop off from school, and they told me, after we heard your story, we just realized that life is hard. We can continue. Like, what we are experiencing is not that bad. And other people who tell me that they were able to forgive people in their lives. So you can imagine the encouragement all that gave me to write. And when I was writing my first book, I didn't know where to stop. I wrote actually the double of the book you saw, Left to Tell, because I just had to cut somewhere. And then I was left with this part where I wish I can tell people that the genocide doesn't stop on the drama part of the genocide and being killed, and there you are feeling saved. But there is a journey behind that you have to live it. You have to live the fact that you don't have your mother anymore. You don't have your father anymore. You don't have your brothers. And what really pains more in that journey is not to have them as people. You miss them, you love them, but to miss that love, just to realize that no one cares about you that much. No one can die for you anymore. So it was really that journey also that took me through a lot of experiences and of life that I wrote about in my second book, Led by Faith. But many of you maybe don't even know what happened for me to reach where I was led by faith. One time in 1994, I was a student at college, and I was home for Easter holiday. And I remember I didn't even want to go home for Easter holiday, but my parents insisted. And I thank God for that, because everyone I left in school that time, they were killed a month after. 700 to 900 students. So when I went home, a genocide started on the 7th of April, when the president of the country died. My brother came to my room and told me that the president of the country died. And I just remember getting out of the bed, and it was like new life, new something. And we screamed. We knew that they were going to kill us. Tutsis. I belong to the Tutsi tribe, and we had two main tribes in Rwanda, Hutu and Tutsi, and I belong to the Tutsi. This is, again, like problems that started a long time ago with the colonializations of the Belgians who came to the country in 1900, and they divided people of Rwanda in two tribes, Hutu and Tutsis, just depending on how tall they are. They decided that the tall people would be Tutsis, and the short people will be Hutus. And those who have a little bit of wide nose will be Hutus. To a point where, even among brothers, some of them became Tutsis, others became Hutu. And they issued identity cards, like a little paper like this, like a driver license. Identity cards that will say who you are, because Tutsi and Hutus look alike. But slowly, with political reasons behind propaganda, they made these two tribes, these two groups hate each other in a way that we felt we were different. So in 1994, they have just, for the third time, made a decision to kill everybody now on the Tutsi side for political reasons. People among themselves, and I'll tell you to this day, you will find people who hate each other in every society for whatever reason they're using, but there's no one who will get up in the morning and start to kill the people who are different from them just because they are different. Or because we hate you, we're going to start killing you. Every genocide in the past is always caused by the propaganda of the leaders of a country, of the government. There are no people who hate themselves, each other that much. So when I got to know the news, and we went outside, we found my parents, and things were just getting bad. And we knew that they have started to kill us, but they have also blocked the borders of the whole country, so no way you can really run. So my parents sent me to this place, to a neighbor who was from the other tribe, and I always remind people about this. He was a Hutu. We knew there was tension between the two tribes, but it is always good to be able to see goodness in other people, especially not to judge people because they belong to this group of people, this country, this race, this type of people. They sent me to this man to be there, and I met him. It was like 30 minutes away from the house, and he put me to sit in a bathroom, 3 by 4 feet, when they were just starting to kill everywhere. I sat there thinking that I was going to come out in 2, 3, 4 days. I ended up staying there in that bathroom with all the 7 women, 3 months, without speaking, without moving, without going outside. And in that silence, and that is what I described a lot in my first book, in that silence of 3 months, I went through anger of the killers. I thought I would be just one of the killers. And then my pain became even worse. They started to search for us, Tutsis, in homes, in Hutu homes, to see if there is anyone hiding after killing them in the public places. And it was, I can't even put in words the fear you feel when you know that people are looking for you. In a house of 3, 4 bedrooms, 300 people looking for you, knowing that they can be there any minute. And you have the sin they're looking for. You are a Tutsi. Even if you don't understand why. And if they found you, they will kill you. They won't let you go for any mercy, for any reason. So, I prayed a lot. I questioned God, and it was almost I was feeling that I had like 2 voices, one on my shoulder and one on the other. Like little 2 voices, we always have those doubtful voices when you are facing a challenge. One is always telling you that, a disaster is going to be bad. It's going to be really bad. You're going to go this. It keeps taking you far away, how bad it can be. And there's this little voice also that tells you, it can be good. It can be good. You can do this. You can trust. In those times where they came to search, it was this one voice. I just made a choice. I'm going to listen to that one that is asking me to hold on to God, to hold on to hope, and don't let go, even if they're in the house. I remember the first time, which became a miracle that really allowed me to continue to pray to God, knowing that He's Almighty. I was asking God, if you are there, and I think it is good to give God specifics of what you want. Give Him something. If you do this, I would know that you are there. I remember asking God, don't let the killers find the door of the bathroom. Don't let them find us, open the door. If they don't find it, I will know that you are real, that you exist. These 300 people, after searching the house for 2 hours, every single place you can imagine, they came to the door of the bathroom, and before they opened it, they told the pastor who was hiding us that, you know what, we trust you. There's no way you can hide these cockroaches. That's how they called us. And they went back. So for me, when he told us what happened, my mind went to the time when I was praying, like, show us a miracle, please don't let them find the door. And I promised God, if they don't find the door, I am going to pray to you. I'm going to know who you are, because I feel like I don't even know you, even though my parents prayed together all the time. And when they left and they told me, I started to pray, questioning everything in the Bible. Why is that? How can I believe? How can I shed off this fear? How can I get rid of this anger I have? It was so hard. But through prayer, and I truly believe prayer has the power to change you, to change anyone, as long as you are willing to say words even when you don't understand them. I remember one time I was going through, especially this prayer that a part of the rosary, as our Lord's Prayer. When I was saying the words, forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. I have said that part before without meaning them, like many of us, we do sometimes. But one time I just felt like, I am lying to God. I don't mean this part. And I got a better idea. I told myself, well, maybe you can just take out that part of the prayer and say the words you mean, instead of continuing to say things when you don't mean them. And that was really, I think, the beginning of forgiving, which is a big part of my message. That big part of revolting yourself and be real. Don't lie. Just be real to God. You saying words you don't mean. Don't continue to just fake that you are praying to me. You are not. And when I reached a part where I realized that, it was almost like a little voice was telling me, that prayer is not man-made. It's from God himself. How dare you change it? How dare you try to edit Jesus' prayer? And then I said, okay, it makes sense, but it's not fair because I'm angry and I think I have a really good reason to be angry. At the end, I remember going on my knees and asking God, help me out. If you know how to forgive, if you know how to let go, help me out. And I really think it is, again, maybe the second step of forgiving is to realize that I am powerless. When you are hating somebody most of the time, you just don't know what to do. Sincerely, you wish maybe you can let go that pain, because the pains, it physically destroys your body. But how do you get it out when you think you have a good reason? But to be able to say, I wish I can get help. And I assure you, when God helps you to forgive somebody, he will give you a good reason. He will put your heart at peace. That you will understand that you are not selling yourself. You understand that you are not condoning the wrong. You understand that it is okay. You feel peace. And that is what happened to me. At one time, I just realized, you know what? I remember I was meditating on the life of Christ, and he's on the cross. And when he said, forgive them, they don't know what they do. It was almost like in my own words, something was reflecting to me. The killers don't get it. They don't get the consequences that will come to them. And I think in reality, even people who hurt you, who hurt us, we all get through some hurt somehow. People don't get it. And have you realized that sometimes you too, you find yourself in some little ways maybe asking yourself, like, how did I do that? How can I say that to my friend? How can I break someone's heart like that? We all go there, maybe in small scales. And for me to realize that there can be some blindness in them, it just allowed me to see that, you know what? Maybe there's goodness in these people. Who knows? Maybe there can be a time where too they can change. And why give up on them? And there is God, who is the Father of everybody. Even if you have to let them choose what they have to choose, but truly he must be feeling bad if he's the Father. And I just almost felt, if you are my child, help me out. For example, as a parent, when you have 2 children, one chooses to be hurting you, to steal things from home, to do all the wrong thing. If you are the good sibling, what will you do? Will you hate the child? your brother who is doing the wrong. You might protect yourself from this person, from what they're doing. They can do that to you. But you will try anything to change them if you truly love them and truly love your father, because you don't want your father just to feel like one child is just bad. I think hatred comes from a lack of love. And if we truly can have that love, the understanding will come. It does not mean that you make yourself a victim. Justice can go on, it will go on. But for you to forgive is letting go that bitterness inside. For me, it was huge lessons I learned from that bathroom. And I felt that if I come out, I feel free. At least I know that no one who have done me wrong will hold me a prisoner of their wrongdoings. So we ended up staying in that bathroom 3 months. We came out. The first day I came out, I found out that everybody in my family I left behind was killed. My mom was killed, my dad, my 2 brothers, my uncles, my aunts, my neighbors, my friends, schoolmates. 1 million people was killed in a country small as Maryland State. Everywhere was dead bodies, where dogs were eating people. But somehow I felt that there was a giant hand in my mind, my heart, that was just telling me, hold on to hope, don't give up. Knowing that God is almighty. He loves you regardless of your sins. He knew you before you were born. And your soul is all beautiful. I remember when I came out of the bathroom, I was 65 pounds. And the people will run away from me because I'm a skeleton. But inside my heart, I'm like, I am beautiful. I even felt more beautiful than I felt before. It is really how you feel yourself. It is how much you feel loved. And it is through prayer, through really listening, having that silence, that we can hear the voice of God that tells you, I love you. I love you so much. To have a little verse from the Bible that says, put it somewhere you can see it, to remind yourself, I knew you before you were born. I created you out of love. And when you see that, you just feel that jump of joy in your heart. Maybe just a verse from a book you love, but something that reminds you how much you are loved. It is those things that really carries me together. And when I come in this country, I wanted to write about my story. I was in the United Nations working, and like I said, anytime I spoke to people would encourage me to write the book. But then I didn't know how to write books. How do you write it? I just know I wanted to see my book in Barnes & Noble on Amazon. But how do you get there? Only God knows. And something came to my heart and said, don't you remember the one who is almighty? The one who loves your soul beyond how you look like outside? Why don't you talk to him? And I started to pray. And you need silence, especially in the morning. That's really when you feel God's love. And I started to write little letters to God, and sometimes I'm sending him emails. They come back, yes. That he doesn't fail to answer prayers. He doesn't. One day, by the way, even if you want him to answer email, he will answer that. One day, this is the truth, I wrote an email to God, to Jesus, and then I said, why don't you just do something? Answer me. Write back. I know you can do all things. I'm testing God. And then I wrote to him, I love you very much. I know you love me. Please keep my love for you and increase it and increase my knowledge of how much you love me. And I sent this email, I think, jesus@heaven.org. The email came back. I know you can answer back. But the funny part is, I have written to some ministry in Ohio that give messages from the Bible from Jesus 2 weeks ago, before, which I didn't really think about that much. And I have written to them to be on the list of people they can send messages. The morning after I have sent an email to Jesus to write me back, I open my computer in the inbox, all of a sudden I see something like a message from Jesus. I'm like, I ran away from my computer. I'm like, I was kidding, please. I couldn't imagine, I was sweating. I couldn't imagine, what will he write to me? What will he say? My goodness, I hope he's not unhappy with what I'm doing. I think I pushed him. Anyway, when I opened the email, it was from the people I have written to. 2 weeks before, but how ironic that I can get that message a day after. I have written a message to him. So truly he can answer emails, even letters. So just so you know. I sat down, I wrote this story for 3 weeks. I wrote my first draft. It took me 3 months to go through the next draft, just correcting. And I had many discouragement. Like I said, many of you, anytime you have a project, and that is really maybe one thing I love to share with people, beside the story of the genocide, how they died, which is myself, it makes me feel bad and it's not easy to share. But to see that, you know what, God is almighty. He's more real than he ever been before. And he's like that to everybody. Just to tell people, hey, you don't have to worry. Look around. There are so many blessings. There's so many things to be grateful about. Just dream. The ways to it happen is not yours. So of course, I got through those little discouragement, and I have written, and when I finished the book, going through all things and asking God, please keep my encouragement. I just want to see my book there. And, not knowing what was going to happen. I finished on March 31st, 2005, the book, put it aside. I was praying, I started to fast, and of course the discouragement will be there, like, yeah, who are you doing? What do you think you are doing? Who will trust you? Who will invest in you? You are an African lady. You come so far from in Rwanda. Who even knows what you went through? Who cares about listening to that? The other voice is like, no, trust. Remember, he loves you regardless of your sins, regardless of anything. You are his child. Think about the child of a rich man who is very loving. There's no way that rich man will ever say no to his child. So I was trying to put myself there so that I can know what God will do, and my joy will come back. 3 days after I have finished in an envelope and I have my book there printed, I went to a workshop, not expecting anything. I thought God was going to use it another way, sending me a publisher. I went to a workshop, something like this really, and I didn't even hear the person I met. I went to another person who was speaking. But I came outside and I saw something like 300 people online going to say hi to somebody. And then I thought to myself, well, if they're online, they must be looking for something. There have to be a reason. Let me just join them. How funny how God can even use your own ignorance to help you out. So I joined the line, I'm thinking about thousands of stuff. And when I reached like 10 people before I reached this man, everybody had a book. He was signing. I didn't know he was signing books. And all of a sudden I was like, okay, I have to go to buy books. What am I going to tell him? I don't even know who he was. So I went back and I bought his book, The Power of the Intention, published also by Hay House. And I grabbed it back and I feel, okay, I'm hoping he doesn't ask me why I bought that one. When I got to him, he looked at the book and he signed it and he gave it to me. And he just asked me, how are you? I said, I'm fine. He's like, where did that accent come from? I couldn't even know that I had an accent. I was like, which accent? Anyway, I told him I came from Rwanda. And then his eyes opened. He said, do you know what happened there? I said, yeah, I heard about that. So anyway, I told him I knew about it, and then he's like, so are you a Tutsi? Are you a Hutu? I said, I'm a Tutsi. Thank you very much. I want to go. He pulls me back. Were you there or were you here? I said, I was there. And I knew we were going for a longer conversation. He's like, so where is your parents? Where is your siblings? I told him what happened, and at the end of maybe 2 minutes conversation, he told me, what makes you smile after what you have gone through? And I told him, well, there's God. There's God Almighty, and there's eternity. Life on earth, we just have to live it with passion. I just try to make it nice and let me go. People are waiting for you. And then he said, you are still talking about God after what happens to you? This man is went there. And he calls his daughter. He's like, can you see? You see all the children? And the daughter was so sweet. She's like, yeah, now I'm in trouble. It's like, do you see all the children? They're smiling in spite of what we went through. And we exchanged email. And then when they told me right in front of people, he said, have you thought about writing a book? I'm like, 3 days ago. I couldn't tell him that. He would think that I came to catch him there. I said, I thought about that. I'm writing about it. And then he said in front of everyone, he said, I promise, when you finish writing your book, I will publish it. And I was like, who is he? I couldn't even say thank you. I mean, you have to know who is talking to you. Who is he? Anyway, I went home, that little voice that is always there to discourage you. Don't listen to that voice. It's discouraging me and made me feel that this man will not remember me. And I really spent a week home without writing, thinking that there's no way he can remember me. He meets maybe 1,000 people every day. Why would he remember the person? He's just trying to be kind. And the other voice was like, why don't you just do your part and finish what you're supposed to do and leave it up to him and to God? And I just got up again. How much most of the time we need just that courage to do our part and not to listen to those discouragement. And I just said, okay. I took an email, I wrote to his daughter. The next morning I went to the office. There was a voicemail of Wayne there. I was like, what took you so long to write to me? What happened? I meant everything I said. I really want to help you. Oh my God. And I called him and we started such a beautiful conversation that maybe have healed me, have touched me more than even writing. He was such a good person who just giving you that compassion, the kindness to tell you that you are just a human being like everybody. Don't feel that what happened to you is because you're unfortunate or any weird person, any weird tribe. All this happened to you for a good reason. And I felt so happy to see somebody who can see that and who can voice it. And I truly believe that every hardship we go through, there is a good reason behind it. If you can rise above that doubtful voice that tells you how unlucky, unfortunate you are, just know that what is good here? Help me out to see it. I know there is something I was supposed to learn. So anyway, long story short, 8 months after we have met one day, he introduced me to his publisher, Hay House, his publisher, and he introduced me to a writer who started to help me to rewrite my book and my beautiful English, put in good words, and helped me just like to reduce it, to decide where to cut and stuff. And the book came out, I remember March 31st, 2006. 2 weeks after, the book was New York Times bestseller. I was just like a shock, like, oh my God, what is that? When I was writing, I was thinking about a friend, an American friend, because I thought in Rwanda we know so much about the genocide, and people still read my book there and find inspiration. But I was thinking about a foreigner, somebody here in this country now that I live here, who wants to know where I came from, who wants to know about my family. Maybe 10 people who were reading it. So to find that thousands of people are reading my book and sending messages, it has been such a blessing. A year after the book was translated in 15 languages, it was a huge blessing when you start something out of a little voice and you just ignore the discouragement and all of a sudden you just do something that touches the world. And one thing I want to tell you, I want to leave with you, please, no matter what happens to you, no matter what happens externally in our country, now my country, America, no matter what happens around, just know that hold on to hope. It can never get too bad that we never get back together. But it's up to us to hold on to hope, to continue to dream, to see the best that can happen to us, to our country, to our world. I truly still believe in the goodness of people, in the possibility of anything can happen. Thank you so much for listening.
Louisiana Book Talks is produced in cooperation with the Center for the Book in the State Library of Louisiana, and made possible in part by a grant from the Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities. This program is a production of Louisiana Public Broadcasting.